The hall was silent for a heartbeat, except for the faint clinking of glasses and the nervous laughter echoing from the far corner. 24-year-old Ayan Malik, tall, charismatic, and raised in a life of comfort, stood at the center of it all, his engagement party. His smile was confident, his presence commanding, but deep down he carried one trait most people didn't see: his stubborn trust in those he loved. And that was the very moment it would be tested. Because just as he lifted the shimmering glass of champagne, a soft, trembling voice cut through the noise. "Don't drink that." Heads turned. A poor girl in a faded dress stood at the edge of the grand hall. Her name was Noor, only 19, a maid in the Malik household. Her wide eyes burned with desperation, her hands shaking as though she held the weight of a terrible secret. Why would a maid dare interrupt the celebration? Why would she target his glass, and why now? Could Noor be trying to save him or ruin him? And if she spoke the truth, what dangerous secret was about to come to light? The story begins. The sunlight streamed through the tall glass windows of the Malik mansion earlier that morning, spilling golden light onto polished marble floors. The Malik family was buzzing with excitement. Today was the official engagement of their only son, Ayan Malik, to Sana Rahim, the stunning daughter of a wealthy businessman. Maids scurried across the corridors carrying trays of flowers and gifts, while cooks in the kitchen prepared lavish platters. The atmosphere was joyful, yet beneath the surface, something uneasy lingered, something only Noor seemed to notice. Noor, quiet and observant, moved between the rooms, arranging decorations with delicate care. She had been working for the Maliks since she was 14. Though she was poor, her honesty and courage had earned her a place in the family's trust, at least in Ayan's heart. But today, her eyes kept darting toward Sana, who stood at the vanity, getting ready. Sana's laughter was beautiful, but her words, sharp, calculated, cut through Noor's ears like knives. "Make sure the lighting is perfect," Sana snapped at a decorator. "I won't have my photos ruined. This day is about me, and everything must shine like I do." Noor hesitated. Something about Sana's tone felt wrong, possessive, even dangerous. The arrival of guests. By afternoon, the Malik mansion transformed into a palace. Silk curtains draped the hall, chandeliers sparkled, and tables overflowed with exotic dishes. Relatives arrived one by one, showering blessings and congratulations. Ayan walked down the staircase in a tailored sherwani, his confident smile drawing every eye in the room. Beside him, Sana glided in, dazzling in a crimson lehenga embroidered with gold. The guests whispered in awe. What a perfect couple. They looked made for each other. But Noor stood at the back, her heart heavy. She noticed how Sana's eyes didn't soften when she looked at Ayan, but instead gleamed with calculation, as if she were claiming a prize, not a partner. The toast. As the evening settled, the crowd gathered near the center of the hall. Ayan's father, Mr. Malik, announced with pride. Today, we unite not only two souls, but two great families. To the happiness of Ayan and Sana. Glasses were filled, and servants moved quickly to pass them around. Noor carried a tray, her steps careful, her hands steady. But when she reached Sana, she paused. For just a second, Noor saw Sana slip something into Ayan's glass, a movement so swift, so subtle, no one else noticed. Her heart raced. She almost dropped the tray. No, it can't be, she whispered to herself. But deep down, she knew what she had seen. The dilemma. The moment of the toast arrived. Ayan raised his glass, smiling at the crowd. His fiancée's eyes locked on him, her lips curling in a faint smile that only Noor seemed to find chilling. Noor froze in place. Her thoughts battled within her. If I say something, everyone will laugh at me. They'll call me a liar, a jealous maid trying to ruin Sana's moment. But if I stay silent, what if I'm right? What if that drink isn't safe? Sweat trickled down her back. Every second felt heavier. Finally, as Ayan brought the glass to his lips, Noor's voice trembled out. Don't drink that. The shockwave. The hall gasped. Guests turned in shock. Mr. Malik's face darkened with anger. What nonsense is this? He barked. Sana quickly stepped forward, pretending to be hurt. Ayan, why is your maid humiliating me like this? On our engagement day? Noor's heart pounded. I saw her put something in your glass. Please, don't drink it. The guests erupted in murmurs. Some looked horrified, others sneered. One relative hissed, "Shameless girl. She's jealous of Sanaa." Another whispered, "Poor thing must have lost her mind." Ayan's brow furrowed. He looked at Noor, then at Sanaa. Sanaa's eyes filled with false tears. "You trust her over me?" she asked, her voice breaking. Noor clenched her fists. "I am not lying. Please, Ayan, trust me this once." The turning point. Ayan's hand trembled around the glass. His mind was torn. Noor had always been honest, yet Sanaa was his fiancée, the woman he was about to spend his life with. The weight of everyone's gaze pressed on him. Finally, Ayan lowered the glass and said quietly, "If what Noor says is untrue, then we'll know." "But if it is true?" Before he could finish, Sanaa suddenly grabbed the glass from his hand. "No need to prove anything," she snapped, her mask slipping for just a moment. That single movement, so urgent, so unlike the calm, graceful Sanaa everyone admired, ignited suspicion in the room. Gasps rippled through the guests. Ayan stared at her, his eyes narrowing. "Noor," he said slowly, "what exactly did you see?" Noor took a shaky breath, her voice steady this time. "I saw her slip something into your drink. I don't know what it was, but I know it wasn't right." The suspense builds. The hall erupted into chaos. Mr. Malik demanded an explanation. Sanaa tried to compose herself, claiming Noor was lying out of jealousy. Some relatives supported Sanaa, others whispered doubt. But Ayan couldn't ignore the doubt now clawing at his chest. He looked at Noor, the poor maid who had nothing to gain by speaking up, and then at Sanaa, whose face was cracking under the weight of accusation. Suddenly, Ayan raised his voice. "Stop. We will test the glass. Right here. Right now." The room fell silent. Sanaa's face drained of color. Her hand tightened around the glass, as though she'd rather shatter it than let anyone near it. And at that moment, everyone realized something was terribly wrong. The hall was frozen, breaths caught in throats, as Ayan's words echoed, "We will test the glass. Right here. Right now." Noor's heart hammered, her palms trembling as she clutched her apron. She had spoken the truth, but now the weight of her words pressed down on her chest. Sanaa's painted smile faltered. She tried to laugh it off, her voice sweet but brittle. "Ayan, darling, really? You would embarrass me in front of everyone? Over a maid's silly imagination?" Her hand clutched the glass tighter. Some guests nodded in agreement, eager to restore the glittering image of the perfect couple. But others glanced uneasily at the fiancée whose composure was slipping by the second. Ayan's father stepped forward, his brows knotted with anger and confusion. "This is nonsense. A girl from the street humiliating my son and his bride on this day? Noor, you will regret this." Noor's voice shook, but her eyes did not waver. "Sir, I am not lying. If you don't believe me, then test the glass." Ayan stepped forward, taking the glass back from Sanaa's grip. She resisted for a moment, but the determination in his eyes left her no choice. The guests murmured, some whispering in shock, others in curiosity. "Bring someone who can test this," Ayan commanded a servant. "We'll know the truth soon." The servant hesitated, but nodded and hurried away. Sanaa's face grew pale, her lips pressed tight. Then, with sudden drama, she turned to Ayan, tears brimming in her eyes. "So this is what our relationship is built on? Suspicion? You would rather trust a servant girl than me? Do you know how much this humiliates me?" She broke into sobs, leaning against him, but Ayan did not comfort her. His eyes stayed fixed on the glass, on the truth waiting inside it. The room was thick with tension. Relatives exchanged uneasy glances. Noor stood silently, her hands gripping her skirt, praying she hadn't made a mistake. What if she had imagined it? What if Sanaa's hand movement had been nothing at all? Would Ayan's family ever forgive her? And yet, deep inside, she knew she had seen something. The servant returned quickly, holding a simple chemical kit used for kitchen safety. Guests crowded closer as Ian placed the glass on the table. "Test it," he ordered. The servant dipped a strip into the drink. For a moment, nothing happened. Whispers rose, doubt flooding the air. Noor's chest tightened. Had she ruined everything? But then, slowly, the strip turned a deep, unmistakable black. Gasps filled the hall. "Poison," the servant whispered, horrified. "It's poison." The words sliced through the air. A glass shattered from someone's hand. Women covered their mouths in horror. Men shouted in anger. The grand hall that had moments ago been filled with celebration now trembled with chaos. All eyes swung to Sanaa. Her tears stopped instantly, her face stiff as stone. "This is a lie," she cried. "Someone must have tampered with it. This is a conspiracy against me." But Noor stepped forward, her voice breaking but strong. "I saw you, Sanaa Baji. With my own eyes. You slipped something into that drink." Sanaa's eyes flashed with fury. "You filthy liar. You're jealous, because you're nothing and I'm everything you can never be. You want to destroy me because he would never look at you." Her words echoed with venom. Some guests gasped, realizing how quickly her mask of sweetness had shattered. Ian stared at her in shock. His chest rose and fell heavily. "Why, Sanaa? Why would you do this?" She stammered, her hands flailing. "I didn't." "This is all her trick. Can't you see, Ian? She wants to break us apart. She's obsessed with you." The accusations hurled through the air like daggers. Noor's eyes filled with tears, but she stood her ground. "I may be poor, but I will never lie about something like this. You can punish me if I'm wrong, but I saw what I saw. I saved your life, Ian Sahib." The hall grew silent again, the guests watching the young man at the center of it all. His eyes darted from Sanaa to Noor, from the broken truth of his fiancée to the trembling honesty of a girl who had nothing to gain. His voice was quiet, but steady. "The poison proves the truth. And yet, the question remains, why would my fiancé want me dead? What secret hides behind this attempt?" Sanaa's face twisted, caught between fear and rage. She opened her mouth to protest again, but just then, a voice from the back of the hall cut through the silence, "Because she was never yours to begin with." Every head turned. At the entrance of the hall stood a man no one expected to see, a stranger with sharp eyes and an aura of authority. He stepped inside slowly, the heavy doors closing behind him. The crowd parted like waves. Sanaa froze, her complexion draining to ash. "You, here," she whispered, her voice trembling. The stranger's eyes locked on her with cold fury. "Yes, Sanaa. It's time they all know who you really are." The hall erupted in whispers again, the suspense unbearable, as the truth everyone feared was about to shatter the Malik family's world. Gasps filled the room as the stranger's words cut through the air. Every eye turned toward him, trying to place his face. Ian's fists clenched at his side, his voice firm yet uncertain. "Who are you? And what do you mean she was never mine to begin with?" The stranger walked forward, his shoes clicking against the marble floor, his eyes never leaving Sanaa. "My name is Faraz," he said. "And this woman you celebrate today as your fiancée was my wife." The hall exploded with shock. Women covered their mouths, men shouted in disbelief. Sanaa staggered backward, her hands trembling. "Lies," she cried. "He's lying, Ian. I don't even know him." But the stranger's voice was unwavering, sharp with pain and anger. "Don't play innocent, Sanaa. You married me 2 years ago in Karachi. You swore loyalty, you swore love, and then you vanished. I searched for you like a madman only to find you here, engaged to another man as if your past didn't exist." The room grew tense. Ian's eyes widened, his heart thundering in his chest. His fiancée, his pride, the woman he trusted, married already? "Is this true?" he demanded, his voice breaking. Sanaa's lips quivered, but she forced a laugh, though it rang hollow. "He's mad, Ian. Why would I hide something like that? he must be trying to ruin me. Faraz pulled a worn envelope from his coat and slammed it onto the table. These are our Nika papers. Signed. Witnessed. Stamped by the court. The papers spread across the polished wood, undeniable evidence staring everyone in the face. Guests leaned in, whispering louder now, their shock turning to anger. So she is a liar. How could she betray Ayan like this? Shameful. Sanaa's facade began to crumble. Her breaths came fast, her face pale. It's not what you think, she stammered. I had to leave him, he wasn't who he pretended to be. Faraz's eyes burned. I worked day and night to build a life for us, Sanaa. And how did you repay me? By poisoning another man so you could climb higher? The accusations silenced the room again. Ayan's head spun. Poison. Lies. A hidden marriage. He felt the walls of his world collapsing. Why, Sanaa? Why would you do this? His voice was hoarse, desperate. Sanaa's mask cracked completely. Her voice rose, filled with bitterness. Because I deserve more, Ayan. Do you hear me? I was born poor, mocked for my poverty, treated like dirt. I swore I would never live that life again. Faraz was nothing, and when I saw the chance to marry into the Malik Empire, I took it. But you, she pointed at Noor with hatred blazing in her eyes, you ruined everything. Noor stepped back, trembling, but held her ground. Her tears glistened in the chandelier light, but her voice was steady. I only spoke the truth. If you had succeeded, Ayan Sahib would be dead. The crowd roared, some demanding Sanaa be thrown out, others insisting police be called. Ayan's father's face was red with fury. This is a disgrace to our family. Guards, take her out. The guards stepped forward, but Sanaa shrieked, twisting in their grip. You think you've won, Noor? You think he will believe you forever? You're nothing but a servant. Don't forget your place. Her words echoed as she was dragged from the hall, kicking and screaming, until the doors slammed shut behind her. The room remained in chaos. Guests argued, relatives whispered, and Ayan stood frozen, his mind a whirlwind. Noor stood silently, eyes lowered, afraid she had destroyed his life even as she saved it. Then Faraz turned to Ayan, his voice softer now. I didn't come here to ruin your engagement. I came here for justice. But I see now, perhaps God brought me here to save you from her lies. Ayan swallowed hard, his throat dry. He looked at Noor, then back at Faraz. His fiancée was gone, his honor shaken, his family humiliated before society. And yet, in the midst of this storm, one truth shone clear: Noor had saved his life. She had risked everything for him. But even as relief seeped into the edges of the hall, a strange unease settled over Noor. She could feel it in the pit of her stomach, a sense that this was not over. Sanaa's eyes, burning with hatred as she was dragged away, haunted her. Noor knew a woman like Sanaa wouldn't simply disappear into the night. She would come back. She would strike again. The question was how, and when. And as the night deepened and the last guests departed, a shadow lingered outside the Malik mansion, watching, waiting. The Malik mansion was silent that night, but it was not a peaceful silence. It was heavy, suffocating, filled with shame and unanswered questions. Ayan sat in his room, his sherwani still on, the engagement ring heavy in his hand. The betrayal played again and again in his mind: Sanaa's lies, the poison, the papers, the humiliation in front of everyone. He pressed his hand against his forehead, whispering to himself, how could I be so blind? Across the hall, Noor sat on the floor of her small servant's room, her knees drawn to her chest. She should have felt relief, even pride for saving his life, but instead she felt the sting of Sanaa's last words. You're nothing but a servant. The words cut deep, because they were true. Even if I entrusted her, even if she had saved him, what was she compared to the people who walked in jeweled clothes and spoke with power? Downstairs, Mr. Malik paced furiously. Our family name is ruined, he muttered to his wife. The whole city will be talking by tomorrow. My son was nearly murdered at his own engagement. And by whom? A girl we trusted. This Noor, his wife placed a hand on his arm. She saved him. Don't forget that. But Mr. Malik's jaw tightened. Or she may have set the whole thing up with that man, Faraz. We can't just believe her so easily. Noor's ears burned as she overheard faint whispers of these doubts. Her chest ached. Was this her reward for telling the truth? Suspicion, shame, and blame? She buried her face in her hands, fighting back tears. Meanwhile, far from the mansion, Sana sat in a dimly lit room, her makeup smeared, her eyes red but burning with fury. A man's voice echoed from the shadows. You failed, Sana. You had one chance. Sana slammed her fist on the table. I was so close. That maid ruined everything. The man stepped into the light. It was her cousin, Rashid, a ruthless figure with connections to dangerous people. Close doesn't matter. You humiliated yourself. You humiliated me. And now, they'll never trust you again. Sana's lips curled into a bitter smile. Oh, they'll trust me again. Or they'll pay for ever doubting me. Noor may have saved Ayan once, but next time, she won't be able to. Back at the mansion, Ayan couldn't sleep. His mind replayed every moment, but in the middle of the storm, Noor's trembling voice echoed most clearly, please, don't drink it. She had no reason to care for him, no reason to risk humiliation. Yet she did. He found himself walking quietly toward the servants' quarters. Noor looked up in shock as he entered. She tried to rise, but he shook his head. Stay, he said softly. There was a long silence, then he whispered, you saved my life today. And yet, you're sitting here like you've lost everything. Noor blinked back tears. I only did what was right. But your father, he thinks I'm part of it. Ayan's eyes darkened. My father is angry. But I know the truth. Noor, I owe you my life. Her lips trembled, words caught in her throat. Before she could reply, a sudden crash echoed from the courtyard below. Both of them jumped. Ayan rushed to the window. In the faint moonlight, he saw a shadow darting across the lawn, too fast to catch. Guards shouted in the distance. Someone had been watching the house. Someone had been here. Noor's stomach tightened. She's back, she whispered, trembling. Ayan clenched his jaw. Let her come. This time, I won't be blind. The night dragged on, uneasy and restless. But what no one in the Malik mansion knew was that Sana had already laid her next plan into motion. She had nothing left to lose, and a woman with nothing to lose is the most dangerous of all. Morning came heavy in the Malik mansion, the golden sunlight doing little to lift the dark cloud that hung over the household. Servants whispered in corners, guests from the night before spread rumors across the city, and newspapers carried scandalous headlines about the broken engagement. Ayan sat at the dining table, untouched food in front of him, his father reading the paper with anger in his eyes. This is a disgrace, Mr. Malik muttered, slamming the paper down. Our name dragged through mud. And that girl, Noor, people think she's a hero, but others say she made up the whole story. Noor, standing silently with a tray, lowered her gaze, her heart aching at every word. Ayan finally spoke, his voice steady. Father, enough. Noor saved me. That's the truth. Whatever society says, I will not let her be blamed. His father's eyes narrowed, but he said nothing more, though the tension between them was sharp as glass. But outside the mansion walls, Sana's anger was growing into something far more dangerous. She walked through the narrow lanes of the old city, her scarf pulled low over her face until she entered a small, dark house. Rashid was already waiting with two men who looked like they lived in the shadows. You said you wanted revenge, Rashid sneered. Then stop crying like a woman scorned and act like one. Sana's voice was cold, her eyes blazing. I don't want revenge. I want to destroy them. Noor ruined everything, Ayan humiliated me, and his family dragged me out like I was dirt. If I can't have Ayan, then no one will. And that girl, she'll pay first. Rashid leaned back, a cruel smile spreading across his face. Then it's simple. We'll hurt her where she cannot recover. She thinks she's safe in that house? She has no idea how fragile safety is. Back at the mansion, life tried to crawl back to normal, but unease lingered. Noor continued her work quietly, though her eyes often drifted to Ayan, who now watched her with a new intensity. Every time their eyes met, something unspoken passed between them, a gratitude, a connection, and perhaps something deeper neither dared to admit. One afternoon, as Noor was hanging clothes in the courtyard, she felt it again, that prickling on the back of her neck. She turned sharply. For a moment she swore she saw someone watching from the garden wall. She gasped, dropping the cloth. But when she blinked, the shadow was gone. Later that night, while the household slept, a stone crashed through Noor's small window, landing on the floor beside her bed. She jolted awake, her heart pounding. Tied around the stone was a note scrawled in hurried handwriting, "Stay away from Ayan, or next time it won't be a warning." Noor's blood ran cold. Her hands shook as she held the note, fear and dread swallowing her. She wanted to scream, but she pressed her hands to her mouth, terrified of waking the family and making things worse. Tears filled her eyes. She knew exactly who had sent the message. The next morning, Noor went to Ayan, her voice trembling. "Sahib, I received this." She handed him the note. His jaw tightened as he read it, his face darkening with fury. "She dares threaten you? After everything?" His hands clenched into fists. "I won't let her near you, Noor. I promise you're safe here." But deep down, Noor knew safety was only an illusion. Sana was clever, relentless, and full of venom. Ayan could guard her all he wanted, but how long could he fight an enemy who lurked in the shadows, who struck without warning? That evening, as the mansion settled into uneasy quiet, a fire suddenly erupted in the servants' quarters. Flames leapt high, smoke choking the air. Screams echoed as servants rushed to escape. Noor stumbled through the smoke, coughing, her vision blurred. She could barely breathe when Ayan's arms wrapped around her, pulling her out through the chaos. He held her tightly, his heart racing as he carried her to safety. "Noor," he cried, his voice raw. She coughed, her face pale, her hands clutching his shirt. "She's here," Noor whispered weakly, her eyes wide with fear. "Sana won't stop until she destroys me." As Ayan looked at the flames consuming the small room Noor had called home, his jaw set like stone. "Then let her come," he said through clenched teeth. "This time, I'll fight her with everything I have." But Noor, trembling in his arms, knew the war had only begun and Sana was far from finished. The fire in the servants' quarters left the Malik mansion shaken. Though the flames were put out, the damage was clear, Noor's few belongings reduced to ashes, her tiny world destroyed. She sat quietly under a blanket in the guest lounge, her face pale, her eyes swollen from smoke and tears. Ayan stood nearby, restless, his anger simmering beneath the surface. "She won't stop," he muttered, pacing. "Not until she gets what she wants." Mr. Malik frowned, his tone stern. "And what if what she wants is not just revenge, but your ruin?" "We cannot afford another scandal, Ayan." Our name Ayan turned sharply. "Father, I don't care about the name. I care about Noor's life. She's suffered enough." The words stunned the room. Noor lowered her gaze, her heart pounding at the way he spoke her name. That night, guards were doubled at the gates, but Ayan couldn't rest. He sat by the window, staring into the shadows outside, knowing Sana was out there, planning. Hours passed until the sound of breaking glass jolted him to his feet. He rushed to the hallway and froze, a figure in black slipping into the house. Without a thought, Ayan chased, his footsteps echoing through the silent corridors. The intruder darted toward the back, and in the pale moonlight, he saw her face, Sana. Her eyes wild, her hair disheveled, her hand clutching a knife that glinted dangerously. "Noor!" Ayan shouted, terror gripping him. He sprinted toward the servant's wing, his heart slamming in his chest. Noor had heard the noise too and stepped out, confused, only to freeze as Sana appeared before her, knife raised high. "You ruined my life!" Sana screamed, her voice breaking with rage. "If I can't have him, you won't either." Noor stumbled back, her hands trembling. "Please, Sana Baji, don't do this. This isn't the way." Tears streamed down her face, but Sanaa's fury was unstoppable. "Shut up! You think you're pure, you think you're better than me? You're nothing but a servant who dared to step in my world." The blade came down, but before it could touch Noor, Ayan lunged, grabbing Sanaa's arm with all his strength. The knife clattered to the floor. They struggled, Sanaa screaming, clawing at him like a wild animal. Guards rushed in, restraining her as she kicked and spat. "You'll regret this, Ayan. You'll regret betraying me for her," she shrieked as they dragged her away. Noor collapsed to the floor, shaking, her breath ragged. Ayan knelt beside her, his hands trembling as he cupped her face. "Are you hurt? Noor, look at me." She shook her head, tears spilling down her cheeks. "Why does she hate me so much?" Her voice cracked with exhaustion. Ayan's heart ached. He pulled her into his arms, holding her as if letting go would mean losing her forever. "Because you're everything she's not. Honest. Brave. Pure. And that terrifies her." Noor wept quietly against his shoulder, the fear and weight of everything finally breaking free. The police arrived soon after, taking Sanaa away for good this time. Rashid and his men were arrested as well, their plan exposed. The danger was over. Days later, the mansion felt different, quieter, lighter, though scarred by what had happened. Relatives who once doubted Noor now whispered in awe of her courage. Even Mr. Malik, once suspicious, approached her with softened eyes. "I was wrong about you," he admitted quietly. "You saved my son, and our family. For that, I owe you more than I can ever repay." Noor bowed her head, humility shining even in her tired eyes. But it was Ayan who stood before her one evening in the courtyard, the setting sun painting the sky with gold and crimson. He looked at her with a gentleness that shook her to the core. "Noor," he said softly, "when everyone lied, you spoke the truth. When everyone turned away, you stood for me. You risked everything to save me. How can I ever let you go back to being just a servant in this house?" Noor's lips parted, her heart racing. "Sahib, I am only what I am." "A poor girl with nothing," Ayan interrupted, his voice firm but tender. "You are not nothing. You are everything. More than wealth, more than pride. You showed me what real love looks like, without saying a word." His hand reached for hers, trembling slightly. "I don't know what tomorrow holds, but I know this, I want you in it. Will you stay by my side?" Noor's eyes filled with tears, but this time they were not from fear. She nodded slowly, her voice breaking but clear. "Yes, Ayan Sahib. I will." The courtyard echoed with silence, yet it was filled with a promise louder than words. And though their journey would not be easy, the truth had triumphed, and the shadows of deceit were finally gone. The moral of their story spread far beyond the Malik mansion, that no wealth, no beauty, no lies can outshine the courage of truth. And sometimes, the poorest heart holds the richest soul. The poor girl had warned him, "Don't drink that." And because he listened, not only was his life saved, but his future was too. The end.